Okay, friends, here is a garden project that I have been putting off, and I can't put it off any longer, and that is building some supports for our tomatoes, because as you can see, they're not in a cage, because last year we tried the cage and the cage proved to be woefully inadequate. So this year I've just let them go, and of course that's not doable, and also having them on the ground makes them more liable to rot and things like that, and they're indeterminate, so they're going to keep growing and growing and growing. So last year I thought that the tomato cages were going to be enough, and they weren't, and so I built a structure out of PVC pipe. I did a lot of research online, and the ideal trellis for these is a cattle panel, but A, we did not have the 50 or $100 it would take to get them, because like everything else, prices have gone up with post-COVID, and B, we didn't have a vehicle big enough to bring a cattle panel home, and C, cattle panels do best with T-posts, and I didn't want to mess around with T-posts in the backyard. So I found a guy who gardens in Wisconsin, of all places, and he had done a tunnel with PVC pipe, and I thought, well, we can get PVC pipe from the Ace hardware store down the street. So to make a long story short, the PVC trellis cage system did work. It took a while to get it put together, because I had foolishly thought that just because the interior diameter of the piping was the same, that would mean the exterior diameter was the same as well, and that's not true. So I actually had to file down the ends of a lot of the pipe to fit in the connectors, but the structure did work. Last year I basically just kind of built a cage, and then I attached twine to each one of the main vines and kind of encouraged it to go upwards, but that involved me spending quite a lot of time going around and tying up all of the vines. And this year I'm kind of looking for more of a, really like a structure or a box. So I don't quite know how this is going to work. I have the framing from last year, the parts that are still usable. I'm going to take them out and see what we've got. So I'd like to use the PVC pipe as the frame, and especially the part that goes into the ground. Because of, obviously, we've had high winds and things here. And then I would like to fill in with the sunflower stalks, which have all been dried over the winter and are various lengths and various thicknesses. And hopefully I could then train the vines to go up through the lattice work of sunflower stalk. So I don't know anything about knot tying. I have never tried this before. This is going to be a brand new experiment. So the first thing is to lay out what we have here and see if I have enough of a structure to reuse the PVC framework. I believe I do, but some of the connectors didn't make it through the winter, and I don't have any more. After a lot of sitting and wishing that I didn't have to be doing this, and some very budgetarily wishful dreaming on Amazon, I believe I have come up with a working prototype, and that is, I'm going to put 3 of these. You can see I've got each one of them laid out. 3 of these, one on each end and then one on the middle, as the framing, and then I will either fill in with twine or sunflower stalks lashed to these. I think so. These are going to be just standalone arches. They're not going to be very they'll be very bendy with the wind. They're going to go in a foot, so I don't think they'll collapse, but they're going to be very bendy in the wind. So my idea is to tie on some of the sunflower stalks as cross supports, both as cross supports for the structure and also as ideally espalier levels for the tomatoes, so that the tomatoes maybe go sideways and up as opposed to just and up. These are about 6 feet, which means that once they're sunk a foot in the ground, they're going to be a little bit shorter than I am, so it's not going to be nearly as tall as last year. Last year I had to get up on a chair to get to the things on the top, and that would be nice not to have to do this year. So we're going to try this. Fortunately, the ground, I was hoping the ground would be wet enough to do this without needing assistance. It rained yesterday, but it has been pretty warm today, and so I'm going to use what I call the water drill, and that basically means getting the hose out and letting it dribble very slowly in the spot I want to sink these for about 20 minutes a piece, and that loosens the clay far enough that I can actually push these into the ground. So that is what I'm going to do now. Yeah, okay, so 10 minutes did not do anything at all. It barely even went in. So I think, so rather than waste a lot of water, I'm trying to be very budget conscious right now since it is supposed to pour down tomorrow, I think I will plan to come out and do this while it's raining tomorrow or after it's rained tomorrow. So I'm going to clean up here. I'm going to go inside and work on some other projects. Okay friends, we're back out here for day 2. It's a couple days later. It did in fact rain the day after I filmed the first segment of this, which was Sunday morning, but I did not have a chance to come out here at all yesterday. However, I tried sinking this in the hole that I tried to dig on Saturday, and it went all the way down. So the ground, I think, is still soft enough to do this, which is awesome. So, I forgot a tape measure. As I started measuring and placing out my 3 arches, as you will remember, the original plan was to make kind of a cage, and I realized that that was going to be a heck of a lot of work. So what I decided to do instead was to recreate the box from last year, albeit a little bit closer to the ground, and I actually discovered the reason I was able to make that box is that I actually discovered that I did have enough cross pieces to connect the arches into a box frame. So that is what I ended up doing. Nothing nearly as complicated as coming through with espaliered sunflower stalks, but you know, this sometimes simple is best, and that is ultimately what I opted to go for here. Ta-da, friends! Here we are. Doesn't that look lovely? So we'll see how this does. I used this twine in the past, last year, which is quite sturdy, and I don't know what happened to the vast majority of it, so I'm using this thin little kite string that I got earlier, and we'll see how it looks. But we have, well, I can count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hooked up to the various tops here. So hopefully that'll get them off the ground and get them some support. The other thing that I didn't realize from last year, so last year we did have them growing in the tomato cages, so they went up first before they went out, and these just went out right from the base, which again, for height purposes, I'm hoping is going to keep them a little bit more manageable. This structure, again, is probably only about 4'5". This was a much faster process from last year, putting up the framework. The framework is a lot smaller, and I really probably need to reposition both of the end pieces here. I should do that. I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm not gonna do that right now. Pretty pleased with it. I will let you guys know how it goes. Expect this to be pretty much covered with vines here in a month or so. And I have the first several fruits off while I was mucking about. I'm gonna bring them inside and see if we can get them to ripen indoors. All right, that's it for today. I hope you guys had a great time hanging out with me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye for now. Since it rained last night and the ground is soft, I thought I'd try to replace these take them out and move them, as I've needed to do for the last week. And this one went back in just fine, but that one got about a third of the way down and is stuck, which is why that's all kind of bent out of shape. And I've got the water drill running on it now. This one actually now is a little bit too far out, but I'm not going to fix it again.